Yo, what's good my fellow Magic Knights? It is your boy DEADMANVINCE back with yet another Black Clover mobile video. Today we are going to be talking about green mages and who you should be working on so that you can dominate the blue stages in the game, so you can farm out gear or talent stones or substat materials, whatever you need. But if you guys have been enjoying these videos, you can go down below, you can go ahead and leave a like, you can go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get notified every single time I drop a video, and you can also comment down below and just let me know what else you want to see. But we're going to go ahead and just get right into the video, so I'll catch you guys at the gear stage. So today we're going to be talking about the blue gear stage, the blue substat boosting material stage, and the blue talent stage. Right here you can see that the gear that you get from this stage here is going to be gold star crit rate gear, gold star HP gear, base crit rate gear, base defense gear. So guys, you already know how we're doing this. We're going to be breaking it down to the best Japanese team, the best global team, and then probably your best bet for a free-to-play team. And I'll also just throw in like more options there. And instead of what I did in the first video where I spoke about each team and then did an auto battle run with them and then went to the next team, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about all of the units all together, and then we're going to go and do auto battle runs with each one of the teams, just kind of test all the teams out and see how they perform individually. So the first team that we have right here is going to be Licht, Fauna, Langris, and then Yuno here, season 2 Yuno. Now I say this is the best team in JP just because there's a lot of AoE damage potential first and foremost. Also Fauna, Langris, and Yuno are not out on the global version yet. Yuno was actually released in season 2 for the Japanese version, but they replaced Yuno for Charmy in season 2 on the global version, which definitely made that a much more of a must summon banner. But I already have all their wiki pages pulled up, so we're just gonna go over to Google and we're gonna talk about each one of them. So first off, we have Licht, who I was talking about. I'll go over him first, and then I'll go over his skill page next. I thought it'd be better just to we can all look at it together. His skill 1 is going to be a single target skill, and it attacks after granting himself increased crit rate level 3, and that's going to be an increase of crit rate by 22%. Then we have his skill 2, which is also a single target, and it's going to attack after granting increased crit rate level 2, so that's 18%. But then also he's going to be giving himself attacks after granting defense penetration level 2, which is going to mean he attacks while ignoring 20% of the target's defense. Then if you have his skill page, he's actually going to also inflict them with buff block for 2 turns if he lands a crit. And with him boosting his crit rate, then he's going to be landing those crits. Licht is a crit machine, basically. His ultimate is an AoE. That's the main part of what makes him really good for farming this stage, because yes, he is a high damage mage, but the AoE comes in clutch in the second room, and we'll see that in the auto battle run a little bit later. Attacks after granting increased crit rate level 3, so literally crit machine everywhere in his skill set. He's just giving himself higher chance to crit. Combo attack is going to be attacks after granting 30% increased damage dealt if an enemy is taking continuous damage. So bleed, electrocute, burn, any of those. He's going to be giving himself 30% increased damage before he attacks. And if you get the skill to level 5, he's going to be giving himself 50% increased damage if they are taking continuous damage before he attacks. He also has a combo skill with Licht, with Raya, so he typically runs really well with Raya, and Raya's ultimate is a single target, Licht's ultimate is an AoE, but with their combo skill, it gives them both another AoE in their arsenal per se. And this one's going to do attacks after granting partner to mage defense penetration level 2, and that's going to be defense penetration of 20%. His enhanced passive, so the passive from the stars, is increased crit damage by 10%, and if I look in the game here, you'll see that when he gets it to level 2, it's going to be crit damage increased by 20%. Then his unique passive, so when he gets to LR, when HP is below 30%, it grants immortality for 1 turn once per battle. So even gives him a little bit of extra survivability. So even when he looks like he's getting 1 tapped, he's going to survive that first turn that you get him down into that health range. Then he's going to get a big damage attack off, and if you have a healer, then you can bring him back. Also, all this crit rate, he's just going to be going crazy, doing really big damage. He's going to be cleaning up the scraps on any of the enemies who have not been taken out just yet by all of the AoEs that you're throwing at them. Then also his skill page effect is going to be at level 1, apply 7% increased damage and 7% increased crit rate to yourself. If you get his skill page to level 5 or level 6 actually, is going to be increased damage by 15% and 7% increased crit rate to self. So Bleak is a very strong option from his ultimate, doing AoEs, getting big damage out against entire waves of enemies, and then his single targets definitely being able to clean up those scraps on the rest of the enemies that are still alive. And if you run him with Raya, then he's also going to have that extra AoE at his disposal, making him even more of a threat. Now we can talk about Hateful Fauna. Again, this mage is not yet released on the global version. She's just the JP version, but I more so just kind of want to talk about this mage because this video is not just for global players, it's for both sides of the game because I play both sides of the game. So Fauna's skill 1 is going to be applies 1 instance of hatred to self, and you'll see throughout her kit she just gives herself stacks of hatred, and we'll talk about what hatred does because it's in her passive. When using a special skill, performs an extra attack that deals damage increased based on the number of hatred stacks, and hatred stacks up to 5 times. Then also the attack, after granting 35% increased damage dealt buff if an enemy has an active taunt. So if the enemy is taunted, you will be doing an extra 35% extra damage. Unfortunately, leveling up the skill doesn't increase the extra increased damage dealt that you do, but so what. Skill 2 is going to be an AoE skill. This one applies 2 instances of hatred on herself, and just so you guys know, hatred goes through waves, so it's not like you get to the next wave and it restarts like all the other buffs. Like, that's still going to be there. Inflicts burn on an enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. If you have her skill page, then it has a 60% chance to taunt an enemy for 1 turn. Then her ultimate, Salamander's Breath? Salamander's Roar. Inflicts barrier removal on a random ally. If hatred isn't present on self, performs an extra attack dealing damage equal to 30% of attack and magical attack. If hatred is present on self, performs an extra attack dealing damage based on the instances of hatred. 1 hatred, 50% on the additional attack. 2 stacks, 70%, 3 stacks, 100%, 4 stacks, 130, 5 stacks, 180%. So if you stack up Fauna's hatred to 5 stacks, which that doesn't really happen because I just let it auto battle and I don't set up the auto battle to do that, and the fight doesn't last that long. If you could get Fauna up to 5 stacks of hatred though, and then use her ultimate, you can literally do her ultimate, which is going to be doing at level 5, what is it, 210% damage to the entire enemy team, and then you could possibly get another 180% of your attack and magical attack. Like, that's actually disgusting, just for AoE and PvP purposes, but also just for the purpose of this dungeon. She just hits insanely hard. She has a crazy setup. Her her combo skill is going to be inflicts taunt on an enemy for 1 turn, and then her passive, if hatred stacks 5 times, max HP is set to 1% and grants self the immortality buff for 1 turn. At the end of the wave, grants 50% of max HP as HP recovery. And then her unique passive is, if all allies are green, grants status element immunity to all allies for 1 turn at the beginning of the battle. So not at the beginning of the wave, just at the beginning of the battle. Also, if you have Fauna 5-star, then her passive is going to be, if you have 5 hate effects, change your HP to 1% and your maximum HP of your maximum HP, and apply immortality effect for 1 turn. At the end of the wave, only 50% of maximum HP will be recovered. If you are given the taunt effect or enhanced taunt effect, you will receive a 50% reduction in damage received buff for 1 turn. So she gets damage reduction as well. That part of her kit, I don't know. I think I would have preferred something that makes her damage even gnarlier. But even still, Fauna is a great mage nonetheless. Then her skill page is going to be, if afflicted with taunt or enhanced taunt, there is a 40% chance to grant 20% increased damage dealt for 1 turn. That's on level 1. At level 6 is going to be 100% chance to grant 40% increased damage dealt for 1 turn. So if you have her skill page, GG. When Fauna dropped, her skill page was actually the only one that I did not get my hands on as soon as it released, but I eventually did get it taken care of, so I do have her skill page now too. Now let's talk about Langris here. Langris, I don't feel like is a mage that everybody should summon for, but I just happen to have him, and honestly, he works for this, you know, surprisingly well, because in his kit here, he's very selfish, I'll say that much. His skill 1 is a 50% chance to grant SP +1 buff to himself, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it would say to a partner mage if it were somebody else. His skill 2 sacrifices 2 of a designated ally's SP points and grants himself SP +2 buff. 45% chance to inflict 20% reduced healing received on a designated ally, and then grant self an increased speed level 3 buff for 2 turns. So that's going to be a 55% boost to speed. But as you can see here from this is a very, very selfish kit here already. He only gives himself SP on his skill 1, and on his skill 2, he's literally taking things from his allies just so he can give himself extra buffs. But right here on the 45% chance to inflict 20% reduced healing, you can actually get his skill to level 5. And you can reduce this chance right here by 32%, making it only a 13% chance to inflict 20% reduced healing to the designated ally. So, you know, if you can get this skill maxed out, then maybe you won't be screwing your team over as much. If you have the skill enhanced with the skill page, then you're actually going to take 2 of your allies' SP, but give yourself 3 instead. So very selfish, but it definitely does work out for the better. His ultimate is going to be inflicts block HP recovery on an enemy for 2 turns, grants all allies 20% increased favor damage dealt for 2 turns, inflicts the reduced HP recovery level 3 debuff on an enemy for 2 turns, which doesn't really matter for this case, and grants debuff immunity to self for 2 turns. It also doesn't matter for this case. What mainly matters is that he's going to be making the allies hit harder in this stage because of the increased favor damage, and he also can just keep giving himself SP based off of somebody else's SP so that he can get his ultimate over and over and over again and just keep doing AoE damage. His combo skill attacks after removing a barrier, so even more offensive stuff. His passive, if you have him 2-star, is going to be at the start of a turn, grants an SP plus 2 buff, so insane, honestly. And then if you have him at 5-star, is going to be at the start of turn, grant self an SP plus 2 buff. When using special move, give yourself the 100% HP recovery effect. So he just like instant heals off of his ultimate once you get him LR, which is insane. Or once you get him 5-star, I'm sorry, which is insane. So Langris, his skill page is going to be upon attacking an enemy inflicted with HP recovery immunity, attacks after granting a 20% increased favor damage dealt buff, does not activate when the partner mage performs a combined attack. And if you get this skill page to level 6, then it's going to be a 40% chance, or a 40% increased favor damage dealt buff. So Langris not only is very selfish, but he is also kind of like a bully against the enemies. He is just highly aggressive against enemies that are already weaker than him, but still a very good choice in this. Like I said, I probably wouldn't go crazy summoning for him though. I would probably wait because he is a general release mage. Next up, we're going to talk about Swimsuit Yuno here. I thought Yuno would be season 3 on global because he wasn't in season 2, but instead they switched it up. They switched up the order of the season, so it is what it is. On global season 2, Yuno here. You see, Yuno came out in the place of Charmy. So Yuno's skill 1 is going to be applies 15% decreased stamina to an enemy, so good for controlling the enemy team, keeping them under wraps. Then right here we have his skill 2, which is applies attack reduction level 2 to an enemy for 2 turns, so that reduces their attack by 44%, and that's really, really good because your team is just not getting hit as hard. You just increase your chances of survival like 10-fold. If you have his skill page, for every debuff on the enemy, grants 5% increased crit damage to yourself. And you know crits quite a bit when I use them. Whenever I'm paying attention, you know, I usually auto battle stuff. But anyway, ultimate is an AoE, applies incapacitate level 3 to all enemies for 2 turns, so just like Lotus. Then applies a concentrated attack debuff to a designated opponent for 1 turn, so also very good. His combo skill is going to be applies defense reduction level 4 to all enemies for 2 turns, and attacks after removing immortality from an enemy. So that's a very evil, very cool effect because immortality is kind of cheesy, and they've put immortality on quite a few mages, and I haven't really seen too many people using this Yuno out in PvP, but if they did, a lot of people would be looking pretty sick with that immortality takeaway. And yeah, that's 40%, that's 70% defense reduction to all enemies, and that combined attack is really good. I don't even use it regularly. I don't regularly use combined attacks. I usually just use the regular skills, and I need to start reading the combined attacks even more because that combined attack is pretty good. His passive is going to be upon landing a crit has a 50% chance to apply 10% increased damage taken to all enemies for 2 turns, and if you have this, you know, 5-star, instead is going to be upon landing a crit, has a 100% chance to apply 10% increased damage taken to all enemies for 2 turns. So just an extra little side incapacitate. Then his passive when you get him LR is applies 10% attack reduction to all enemies for 2 turns upon using skill 2. So skill 2 already does a 44% attack reduction, and this one gives an additional 10%. So 54% attack reduction. So that is kind of like the thought process behind this comp that I have right here. Now let's go back over, and I kind of spoiled it here, but let's go back over to the game and just talk about the next team that we have here. The next team that I have here is going to be Raddies, Rill, Licht, Raya. Raya and Licht, like I said, work very well together, and they're both green, obviously. Raddies is a very useful guardian. He has taunt in his kit. He has debuff immunity. He also has a big shield that can, when you build him right, can be like a second set of HP for you. Rill has a lot of debuffing capabilities, making the enemies weaker, stunning enemies. So I'm gonna go over Raddies, Rill, and Raya real quick. Raddies skill 1 is a 45% chance to inflict poison on an enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. That one's not really that important. It has a higher poison chance if you level it. That doesn't really matter too much. I mean, I guess sometimes it can be cool to get that little tiny extra bit of damage. Sometimes the enemies will have like a tiny bit of HP left. Grants all allies increased defense level 2 for 2 turns. That's 140% defense boost. If you have a skill page, also grants all allies increased damage resistance level 5 for 2 turns, which is 45% damage resistance. So also very good. I typically use Raddies and Yuno in combo because of the shield and the defense reduction, or the shields and the defense boosting, plus the enemy attack reduction is typically what I go for with those two. His ultimate is going to grant all allies 140% of their magical attack as a barrier for 2 turns, and 50% chance to grant an ally increased endurance level 3 for 2 turns, then grants all allies status change immunity for 2 turns, and if you have his skill level 5, then it's actually going to be granting all allies 240% of their magical attack as a barrier instead. That endurance level 3 is going to be increasing their endurance by 25%. And then, yeah, debuff immunity with his ultimate as well. Very annoying to deal with in PvP, to say the least, but very, very useful when fighting mobs in dungeons for farming. Right here, his combined attack has a 60% chance to inflict taunt on an enemy for 2 turns. And if you get it to level 4, honestly, you can just get the 100% chance to inflict taunt on an enemy, and you don't even really got to worry about the level 5 on this skill. I mean, it looks nice to level 5 on your skills, but like Raddies isn't a damage unit, so you can do this, you know, tiny extra little bit of damage. His passive is going to be upon taking damage, there is a 30% chance to inflict taunt on the attacker for 1 turn. If you get him to 5-star, then it's going to be a 50% chance to inflict taunt on the attacker for a turn. Then right here, his unique passive is going to be speed plus 7, so makes him a little bit faster than the rest of the guardians, because guardians are kind of slow in the game. His skill page is going to be at the start of every wave, grants you a barrier equal to 15% of your maximum HP at level 1, and at level 6 grants 30% of your maximum HP as a barrier for 2 turns. That is. Then we have Rill Boys Mortier here, and Rill I used for a little while in PvP. He's kind of fun, but he's very like RNG heavy. His skill 1, upon having 4 or more special points, attacks start granting increased magic attack level 1, and that's going to be 40% to 42% boost. His AoE, or his skill 2, is an AoE, and this one is inflicts reduced damage, inflicts reduced defense level 3 on all enemies for 2 turns, 50% chance to remove 2 buffs from an enemy, and if you level up his skill, or if you get his skill page, is going to be for each removed buff from an enemy, inflicts 20% increased damage taken on them for 2 turns. So pure evil right there. Then also, if you get this skill to level 5, you have a 70% chance to remove 2 buffs from an enemy instead. And I like that because it's not like a 70% chance to remove 1 of 2 buffs. It's like 70% chance, and if you get the 70% chance, it's not like 1 buff is coming off, both are coming off. So Rill will really peel away your defenses there bit by bit. His ultimate is an AoE. It inflicts incapacitate level 3 on all enemies for 2 turns. Then he has a 40% chance to stun an enemy for 1 turn. This can stun entire enemy teams. It sucks that you can't level up the stun chance in the skill right here, but I feel like when they do mage like awakenings, like limit break, super, whatever you want to call it, I feel like they will add in more ways to boost the skills specifically. His combo skill is going to be performance of 80% chance to inflict buff block on an enemy for 1 turn. His passive skill is going to be Grants 7% increased damage dealt when attacking a defender. That's the only reason why I don't really be too excited to use Real in this stage, because there's no defender enemies in this stage specifically. But that's a different case for the other like stages, like the talent stage or the substat boosting stage. If you have him at 5-star, he's going to be 14% increased damage dealt. Then also, if you use his skill 1, this is his passive when you get him to LR. If you use his skill 1, inflicts extended debuff duration by 1 turn to an enemy. His skill page is going to be, has a 60% chance of applying 10% defense reduction to an enemy for 2 turns upon using his ultimate. Or if you have it level 6, which I do, you will have a 20% defense reduction on a random enemy for 2 turns. 60% chance of a 20% defense reduction on a random enemy for 2 turns. So Real is very heavy in the debuffing department, so he can help you get out a lot of extra damage and peel away any sort of buffs that the enemies are trying to put on themselves. Then lastly, the next new mage on this team is going to be Raya. And guys, also let me know down below in the comments, do you like it more when I go through each team, show them off, and then go to the next team, or do you like this better where I go through all the mages so we can just go ahead and look at all of them at the same time instead? So Raya's skill 1 is going to be an AoE. So Raya's skill set is literally the exact same as Yami's skill set when it comes to like AoE, single target. The only difference is that Raya's effects are different. So Raya's skill 1 is going to be an AoE, and if he has a buff, he performs an extra attack dealing damage equal to 30% of his attack and magical attack to all enemies. Then his skill 2 is going to be a single target, and this one copies 2 buffs on an enemy. If you have a skill page for him, it's going to remove those 2 buffs from the enemy. So that's just good because Raya can beef himself up and then literally like lower the enemy's power at the same exact time. Then his ultimate is going to be a single target. If 2 or more buffs are active or are present, performs an extra attack on an enemy, dealing 70% of attack and magic attack as extra damage. Attacks after granting 15% increased damage dealt for each active buff present. So Raya steals buffs. Raya steals buffs. Raya gets buffs from allies, you know what I'm saying? He gets buffs from everywhere. And also, let's look a little deeper in this kit. If he has a buff on himself, attacks are granting 15% increased damage dealt, and if you have this skill level 5, it's going to be 25% increased damage dealt. Then his unique attack is going to be with licked. Attacks after copying 1 buff of the partnered mage. Attacks after granting the partnered mage a partnered mage and self increased all attack level 2 for or just level 2, and that's gonna be 40% to attack and magical attack. His enhanced passive is grants 2.5% increased attack when a buff expires. So every time a buff expires, this man Raya gets another buff that stacks up to 3 times. So all around, this man Raya is always consistently going to be getting a buff from somewhere, no matter what point into the fight you're at. And also, if you get this skill to, or if you get him to level of 5-star, then it's going to be a 5% increase that stacks up to 3 times instead of a 2.5% increase in attack. Then his unique passive is going to be grants HP recovery equal to 15% of maximum HP when a buff expires. So this man really just be healing every time a buff expires, even though he just gives himself buffs forever. He's literally pure evil. His skill page kind of sucks. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna level with you. At the start of a turn, if there are at least 3 buffs affecting you, gain 30% to 62% increased accuracy. So 30% is at level 1, 62% is at level 6. But I feel like it would have been better off with a skill page kind of like Yami's that gives you a stack of crit rate every time a partnered mage uses a skill on your team. I feel like that probably would have been your like best bet. And that's that for that team. Guys, I do want to go ahead and say to you that this team right here is what I would say is probably your best bet for like a global team. You have Real here to debuff the enemies, which is going to make Licked and Raya do plenty more damage. Then you have Raddy's here, who is going to make sure that your team stays alive. If you have a skill page, he's giving you damage resistance and also defense boosting. But if you don't have a skill page, you're still getting a defense boost from his skill too. So this is a very defensive team more so. I've been kind of leaning more towards offensive teams now, just kind of testing the waters with different units. Then this next team is just, I believe, a few more options that you can use. So We have Fuego here. You guys, you know that I'm not very big on Fuego, but I'm getting to that point in the game where like I do want to play with every single mage. And I'm just like, man, I gotta start turning my like thinking around and just figure out a way to make some certain mages useful. So I'm gonna stop bagging on this man Green Fuego, and I'm gonna try to give him another chance. I'm gonna try to make him work, see what I can get with him. But I still feel like there are better things to come. Maybe don't invest in him. If he's like one of your first mages and you're getting super duper duper shafted and he's all you have, then I mean, like at that point you kind of have no choice. Like, go for it. But I just feel like if you work on him now and then you expect him to be somebody you're going to be using, like reaching out to consistently later in the game, I don't know, you might be a little disappointed. Jack I have right here in the listing just because he is about to come out on global. Jack, I will go ahead and say, is like a sweaty character. I don't even think you should really use the Gate of Destiny key on him, or Gate of Reunion key on him, just because you really want to have him 5-star so that he can really like use his kit, because his kit's very lenient, or very teetering on that fact. Valtos is a very good mage that everybody will have access to at some point if you don't already have access to him, because he's an SR, so he is a free-to-play character. He has very strong buffs. Then we have Mimosa here. Mimosa is from season 1, and she was a Gate of Destiny character, Gate of Reunion. If you got her, then GG. This team comp will probably work for you. If you don't have her, then that's okay. They rerun characters a lot. I've seen it on the Japanese version. I don't know how they'll handle it on the global version, but there will be plenty of reruns. Don't you worry about that. Alright guys, so we're going to be talking about Fuego now. Fuego skill 1. If an enemy is taking continuous damage, attacks after granting 30% increased damage dealt. So let's go through this whole kit and then I'll talk about it. Skill 2. 50% chance to inflict burn on an enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. This is an AoE skill, and if you have a skill page, attacks after granting increased penetration level 2. Then we have his ultimate, which is a single target. If an enemy is taking continuous damage, attacks after granting 40% increased damage dealt, and inflicts burn on the enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. And if you get the skill to level 5, then it's going to inflict 60% increased damage instead. Yeah. And then his combo skill is going to be, if an enemy is inflicted with a debuff, attacks after granting 30% increased damage dealt. His united attack with Nozel is, upon landing a crit, inflicts 3 layers of burn on the enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns, and inflicts reduced endurance level 3 on an enemy for 2 turns. So Fuego is low-key a penetration character if he's lowering endurance in his kit somewhere and he has penetration level up. So my problem with Fuego is that I feel like, and this is me personally, this is why I'm saying I need to take a step back and stop bagging on Fuego, because people like different things. Personally, I like to engage with this attack first, because this attack right here is an AoE attack. I want to try and burn as many enemies as I possibly can. This is only AoE attack. If you have his ultimate here, you can use that, but I just use an entire ult just to burn one person, just to hit more damage on this skill right here. Like, I feel like I understand the setup of how they want you to use this man, but it's just like, I don't know that I like how it's set up. I'd rather this man have a burn chance on his skill 1. Like, you're literally, your entire kit is fire magic. You are a fire mage. I feel like there should be burn on like every attack realistically. But to be real though, this attack does shoot through you like a beam. It doesn't really like set you on fire or anything, so it makes sense. But I don't know. I feel like they could have I feel like they should give this a higher burn chance right here on the skill 2, so you can burn everybody. You can kind of like take your pick at who you want to swipe instead of having to burn just one enemy, right? That's the difference, man. I feel like them taking that extra damage at the end of each turn, all the enemies, is gonna get you through that fight a little faster. So that's my only like real gripe with this man. His skill page is gonna be, applies 12% increased damage to yourself when HP is 50% or higher, or if you have him at level 6 or have it at level 6, 24% increased damage to yourself when HP is 50% or higher. So not too bad with the skill page. Then we have Jack here. So this is why I'm saying Jack is maybe not somebody you want to summon on. Or you might summon on the banner for Charlotte, because Charlotte's pretty good, and I like Season 4 Fuego, or Season 3 Fuego, I guess, for global. But Jack, I don't know if that's somebody you want to be going in for, unless you're trying to get him 5-star. His skill 1 is going to be a single target inflicts bleed on the enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. When the enemy is afflicted with bleed, it has a 50% chance to stun them. So that's okay. Stun and bleed is pretty good. His skill 2 applies 1 stack of miscalculation to self. Applies increased penetration level 2 to self for 2 turns. Applies increased accuracy level 2 to self for 2 turns. When using a special move, additionally attack a random target per stack of miscalculation, up to 3 stacks. So miscalculation is going to give him 3 extra attacks when he uses his ultimate. Increased penetration and, okay, it's not even telling me the amount that it increases by, but then we come down to his skill, his ultimate. Yes, his ultimate is going to be performs an additional attack per stack of miscalculated, dealing additional damage equal to 80% of attack and magic attack to a random enemy. Inflicts stun for 1 turn on a designated target. And if you have his skill page, if miscalculated was triggered 3 times in the same turn, the last trigger will benefit from a 500% increased damage buff. This is the main part of his kit right here. This is what you want to reach, right? You want to get to all 3 stacks of miscalculated, then let this right here rip when you use his ultimate. Now the only problem is that you have to use his skill 2 to get 1 stack of miscalculated. Then you have to wait for it to come back around, wait for the cooldown on the skill 2 to get his to get it again and keep stacking miscalculated for him. And I think does he start with a stack of miscalculated or something like that? So it would take you like 4 or 5 turns to get that man set up, right? Because you have to wait for his cooldown to happen twice or once. You know what I mean. But if you have him maxed out, you actually start with an extra stack of miscalculation somewhere. Yep, cool, look, passive. Applies 1 stack of miscalculation to self at the start of battle if you have him 2-star. If you have him 5-star, it applies 2 stacks of miscalculation at the start of the battle. Then you only have to use his skill 2 once, and then his next turn you're just using his ultimate and getting hella damage out for free. Then his unique passive is going to be grant self 20, or when attacked, gives himself 20% increased stamina. So if you hit him, his stamina's gonna rise, and eventually he's just gonna come back and take his next turn. So you get him 5-star, you get his skill page, you use that skill 2 first turn. He gets hit like 2-3 times. Maybe he survives it. His stamina just keeps boosting. He comes back, and then he just uses his ultimate. If he taps 1 enemy, he can hit the other 3 enemies for 80% each. And if he's strong enough, he could possibly kill all of them. So Jack is a very interesting character, but he is somebody that you have to sweat to really get the full benefits from him. So I don't know if I'd say summon on him Magic Knights. His skill page is also going to has a 35% chance to grant itself 20% increased damage before attacking. And if you get it to level 5, has a 100% chance to grant itself 20% increased damage before attacking. So Jack, another pretty cool option. I won't say like the best, but he's pretty cool. Mimosa here, what is there not to say about Mimosa? Mimosa has big heals. Mimosa has great defense, great HP. They recently buffed her and gave her that SP +1 to allies whenever she uses her skill 1, and she also can revive. Everybody knows Mimosa's big revive. Her skill 1 is going to be an attack. It's a single target, but it grants the ally with the lowest HP. HP recovery equal to 120% of their magical attack. 45% chance to grant SP +1 to an ally whose HP has been recovered. And honestly, I like Charmy's kit better just because she heals based off of her own maximum HP. With other mages, healing based off of their stats. One stat that's going to be big in the battle is going to be your healer's HP. So I just like going ahead and just scaling everything off of that instead. But still, this definitely does get the job done. If you get this skill to level 5, it's going to do 180% of their magical attack as health instead of 120%. Her skill 2 is going to be an AoE heal. Grants all allies HP recovery equal to 120% of their magical attack. If you get it to level 5, that's going to be 200% instead. Then it grants extend debuff duration by 1 turn to a designated ally. Or extend buff duration. Then it grants all allies increased damage resistance level 2 for 2 turns. And if you get the skill page, this will extend a buff duration by 2 turns instead of just 1. Her ultimate is going to be an AoE heal once more. Grants all allies HP recovery equal to 180% of their magical attack. If you get it to level 5, it's going to be 280% of their magical attack. Then grants all allies increased defense level 2 for 2 turns, which is going to be 140%. Then also, after resurrection, it restores HP of a designated ally to 30%. So you can select the ally you want to resurrect, and then you will heal them up to 30% HP. But wait, there's more. Grants partner mage an increased attack level 5 buff and 50% chance to grant the partner mage SP +1. Now, if you get that to level 5, that's going to be an 80% chance to grant a partnered mage SP +2. Yeah, with the level 5 attack buff. So very, very good. Her advanced passive is going to be grants 5% reduced damage taken. If you get it to 5-star, she's going to be reduced 10% damage taken. In her unique passive, when she gets the LR, restores 50% of an ally revived instead of 30% when using the special skill. So Mimosa's very good for if your team is like weak and they can't quite live through everything. She can get that revive every now and then, bring somebody back. You know, if they're really just hanging into the fight, just waiting for that one ally to come back. Then we had Voltos. Voltos is free to play, so cheaper to invest in, which is always very, very good for everybody, whales and free to play players alike. Applies 10% increased stamina to an ally with the lowest stamina on his skill 1. It is an attack, it's a single target. His skill 2 is going to be applies increased magic attack level 3 to a designated ally for 2 turns. Has a 50% chance of applying block stamina reduction to an ally for 1 turn. If you have a skill page, it applies increased accuracy level 3 to all allies for 2 turns as well. And if you get this level 5, it is going to be a 90% chance of applying block stamina reduction to an ally for 1 turn. His ultimate is going to be an AoE. It hits the enemy team, applies 20% increased stamina to all allies. So he's very good for, like, you know, just first turn, just boom, it's your turn. No enemies attacking anymore, because he's going to be faster than the enemies, that's for sure. His combined attack is going to be applies increased crit rate level 5 to your partner's attack, and has a 50% chance of applying 10% increased stamina to your partner. If you get this to level 5, it's going to be a 20% increased stamina to your partner. His passive is applies 5% reduced damage taken when being attacked by a debuffer, and if you have it to 5-star, it's going to be 10% reduced damage taken when being attacked by a debuffer. Pretty sure they made that for if he's ever getting hit by Lotus in PvP or something, and he's type advantage too, so they're smart for that one. Increases mobility by his skill page applies 5% increased stamina to yourself when using a special skill, but if you have it level 6, which everybody can have this level 6 very easily, SR skill page, 20% increased stamina upon using special skill. So Voltos is going to be really good for just like speed blitzing enemies. Then we have just 2 more mages to go over. So my recent team was my best Japanese team. My first team right here is my best global team that I would say. Then this team right here is actually going to be the best free-to-play team that you can go for. So we already talked about Voltos and Mimosa. Yuno is a solid DPS option from the start of the game. They literally give you him panel 1 of the game, and he can do some pretty good damage if he's built out properly. Nebra is a pretty solid debuffer. She has a really good defense debuff, and she has that mutate as well, which can stop enemies from attacking you. Let's just cover them, and then after I cover these 2, we are good to get to the auto battle runs. Okay guys, so Yuno skill 1 is going to be upon defeating an enemy deals an additional additional damage equal to 35% of attack and magical attack to all enemies with an additional attack. Upon landing a crit, deals an additional damage equal to 35% of attack and magical attack to all enemies with an additional attack. So if you kill or crit an enemy with Yuno's skill 1, he will do a follow-up attack that hits everybody instead of just one person. I always like that feature about him. His skill 2 is going to be an AoE. Yuno it's funny. Yuno is a attacker that has a lot of debuffs built into his kit, and then they literally made season 2 Yuno, who is a debuffer who has a lot of just like AoE and like extra damage type of things built into his kit. So they always try to make Yuno mages very versatile, and it's very clear to see. It's very transparent. Has a 60% chance of applying defense reduction level 2 to an enemy for 2 turns. If you have a skill page, attacks after applying reduced defense level 2 to an enemy. So you apply defense level 2 or reduce defense level 2, then have a 60% chance to apply an additional reduced defense level 2. Like, bruh, what is that? Ultimate is going to be has a 60% chance to incapacitate level 2 to an enemy for 2 turns. That's going to be 40% increased damage taken on the enemy. Combined attack is going to be upon having a buff. Attacks after applying 15% increased damage to yourself. Then if you have Asta by his side, the SR Asta, that's going to be applies incapacitate level 2 to all enemies for 2 turns upon defeating an enemy, and applies speed reduction level 1 to an enemy for 2 turns. Then we also have his passive, which is applies 5% increased damage done when attacking a supporter, and if you have this at 5-star, it's going to be 10% damage done when attacking a supporter. Then lastly, finally, we get to Nebra Silva, and Nebra's skill 1 is going to be inflicts reduced magic attack level 1 to an enemy with the highest mobility for 1 turn. Then That's a single target, by the way. Her skill 2 is also a single target, has a 40% chance to transform an enemy for 1 turn, then inflicts reduced defense level 4 to an enemy for 2 turns. So that's going to be a 70% reduction in defense, and that is not linked to the transform. That is just by itself, it will do that. Then also inflicts buff block on the enemy for 1 turn if you have her skill page. Then we come to her ultimate, activate summon clone for 2 turns. So she summons some mist clones, and the mist clones deal damage equal to 35% of attack and magic attack to an enemy upon using her skill 1 mist bullets. Her combined attack is going to be inflicts incapacitate level 4 on an enemy for 2 turns. That's crazy because you just saw a bunch of SSRs and all of them had like incapacitate level 3. She has a combined skill that has incapacitate level 4. So GG on that one. It's going to increase damage taken by 60%, and then also favor damage dealt plus 5%. So she's going to naturally just do more damage against blue enemies. Then we come right here to her skill page, and her skill page is going to be at level 1, has a 40% or 14, I'm so sorry, has a 14% chance of removing increased defense from an enemy upon attacking. So if they have increased defense, GG, I guess. Then at level 6 has a 30% chance of removing increased defense from an enemy upon attacking. That's kind of evil. She's really just trying to rip through your defenses for no reason there. But that is it for all of these mage like breakdowns. We're gonna go ahead and get over to the auto battle runs, which are gonna be super duper quick, and then we can yeah, that'll be it for the video. So guys, I know that my teams are to a point where I can just like auto battle now, and obviously just putting these teams together will not give you the full capability to auto battle, but I'm just kind of giving you the comps that work the best, work the easiest for me. You can see with this team right here, we're just getting a lot of AoE damage out right now. Lick is going to hit his ult, and then wow, he didn't kill that enemy. No, but the enemy died from another debuff, so very clean. So we had a 1 turn kind of like wipe situation in the first 2 rooms, and you can see Langris already has his ultimate back by the start of the 3rd room here, and he's just using his ultimate again, getting that little bit of AoE chip damage in on all the enemies. If I built out my Langris a little bit more, then he would definitely be much better off with the damage. You see Licht is almost dead, but he had his immortality, and also he survived anyway. Okay, he finally died there, but even still, it doesn't matter because Fauna is going to clean off that enemy, and then Langris is ulting next turn, I believe. Didn't matter, you know, is the one who's going to take up the rest of the damage right there. But as you can see with that team, it's just a flurry of AoE attacks in the enemy's face, and they cannot live through all of it. And also Lick just cleaning up enemies with his single target damage, and Fauna also cleaning up enemies as well with her AoE damage is just incredible. How good they do at wiping the stage. Now we're gonna go over to the second team here. I'm gonna gear them up, and then we'll hop into the battle. Alright guys, we are here with this team all geared up. We have Rail using his ultimate first, which stuns 2 enemies, so very good. Then we have Raddy's throwing off his shield automatically. This man Lick is going to go ahead and throw out his ultimate, and then Raya is going to throw out his ultimate. Honestly, what would be a better bet would be if you set up Raya to use his combo skill in the first turn instead, because him and Lick would have just cleaned up the rest of those enemies there, and we would have already been to the next room. Right here, we can see that Raddy's is off to a good start, giving us defense and damage reduction. Then Raya kills an enemy already. Everybody ate that hit though, because of Raddy's extra defense boost and damage resistance. They're working on that enemy. But one thing that I do want to point out is that just because I can auto battle this, obviously it took a lot of time to get to this point where I can auto battle all these stages, but that is the goal that I had in mind. So if you want to work to auto battle these stages, then pick these mages up, you know, go ahead and give them a shot, but it will take some time, just know that. But don't be discouraged. That's what it means to be like a Mage Knight, you know what I'm saying? That's how they kind of go through their trials and tribulations in the actual anime as well. So definitely don't be discouraged trying to get things together. But also, just because these teams right here, you're seeing them auto battle, then that kind of shows you that, like, you know that these teams will work if you actually do use them manually. Because more often than not, if you just throw these teams in on auto battle and just let the auto battle do what it usually does really stupid options for, like, sometimes for some reason. Like, it's like the auto battle is just not going to reason like you would reason. So more so, if you're controlling the characters, then you should have an easier time going through these missions than I do with the auto battle, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and gear up this team right here, and then we're going to go ahead and hop into this next one here. Now this team is probably going to be taking a longer time just because they're a little more single target oriented. So yeah, you see Fuego just doing a single target right there. That damage really wasn't that impressive in my opinion. Jack got his additional attack off already because he had one stack of miscalculated. But honestly, it would have been better if he used his skill tree first. But I'm just letting this auto battle run without me touching it at all, so that you guys like know, like, yes, these teams work even if you mess up and make like a bad play, because the CPU for this game, or whatever the computer is doing for this game, it really don't be making sense sometimes. But they made that first wave that took a super long time, and you can definitely set up the bot to do skills in different order. Like Mimosa's kind of dead weight here, man. It's just like the healers in these stages, when your team is beefy enough to take those hits, healers in these stages just don't really make as much sense anymore. But we do have 3 stacks of miscalculated with Jack, so it looks like we'll be seeing that in a second here. Yeah, we're gonna be seeing that right now. Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to get Jack some better gear, to be honest, because he just did 26k on that first hit, and then by the last hit altogether it was 256k. So it like multiplied by 10 essentially how much damage he did. But I want to maximize that damage. He's not wearing any like penetration gear right now either, so that's definitely a culprit in the case there. But yeah, Jack's cool. You know, he does a little bit of damage here and there. He's not looking super duper crazy to me, but honestly, if he would have done his skill 2 in the first turn, I feel like I would have been more impressed. So I feel like he would have done skill 2 and then ultimate and then wiped the first room. I genuinely feel that would have happened or something like that. Okay. Yeah, okay, nah, he didn't do that much damage. I'm capping. I'm hyping this man a little too hard. But yeah, global players don't summon for this man, Jack. Just don't do it. Like, I like Jack as a character, and I try to fight for this man's case, but like, I gotta keep it a band with you. Like, bro, don't do it. Cause like I'm over here like, man, if I had him 5-star maybe, but I'm just like, dang, that's not a good mindset to have about a character though. All right, we're gonna go on with the last team, the free-to-play team. This one will probably be the longest, but honestly, I can see it ending up that the team that we just used took longer than the last team. So guys, this is my input for the ultimate free-to-play team, just because Mimosa could have been acquired with the key from the Gate of Reunion. Nebra is an SR character, is given to you at the start of the game. Valtos, you will get eventually, he is an SR character. So even though this team will take a bit of a longer time, they will still get the job done. They're really trying to get right now, but you're going to see here in a second that Mimosa is actually going to be making sure that is still good. And you can see nearly wipe that enemy right there because of Nebra's debuff. So, and like I said, I know that this team isn't the most premium option that we're looking at right now, but it's just like, I'm just giving you teams that do work, and I'm just letting them run so you see like, yo, this does work. And like I said, man, you can definitely run these teams like manually and just make sure that these teams are doing exactly what you want them to do. But you can see Yuno's back up to full health again. Basically, he's back down to nearly nothing again, but that is just a cycle with him. He is an attacker. He's just going to be lower HP, lower defense. So it definitely happens, but it's cool though. Don't worry about it. Mimosa will definitely have him taken care of, and even if he dies, then Mimosa can literally just revive this man at some point in the fight. So works out. You don't just wipe those 2 enemies. Very good, very good. Mimosa just wasted her revive, so hopefully nobody dies from right now to the next room. But yep, cool, nice little debuff combo on him. That was a 60% damage increase just now from Nebra, and then with the basic attack just absolutely clears. This didn't hit that enemy too hard, even though they're reduced defense by 70%, but that's whatever, I guess. Valtos is just ulting, giving us a little bit extra stamina here, giving us some extra free turns right here. I want to get some more crits in so that he can get some extra damage out, man. Get a kill or something, bro. That was a combo skill. No crit. You gotta do better, man. So that's the thing with Yuno can do good damage, but if you're not critting with then like is kind of a jackass sometimes. Is stunned now. Beat. Mimosa can heal with the ultimate, but there's no need. They're going for Mimosa, but it's not working out. Yeah, okay, so no, this team definitely is taking the longest out of all the teams, so just having premium, you know, SSR characters to do that extra damage always makes that big difference. Can literally kill the one on the left and then get an extra attack, or he's just gonna go for his ultimate. Okay, that did pretty solid damage to the one on the right. And we are done this next turn. We're done. If somebody gets a turn out, yeah, we're done. Cool. All right, so the free-to-play team works as well. Even if you auto battle, you don't even have to control it. Obviously, you have to gear it up to that certain point. But at the end of the day, these teams all still work. Sorry, I just turned on my massage gun there. All these teams work. And I just kind of gave you a breakdown looking at each one of the mages, and you do not have to use these teams exactly as I have them constructed right here. You can definitely mix and match whoever you need to amongst these teams, make it work. I would say for switching out, if you're on the Japanese version, if you're not going to use Real, then use the instead. If you're not going to use then use Real, vice versa. Cool. For damage, I think you do want to use Green Fauna and Licked as a pair instead of using Raya and Licked. Raya has good damage potential, but I just like Fauna better, and I like Licked better as well, so I'll stick to using those two. Raddies and Mimosa are going to be interchangeable. I know they do two different things, one with the shield, one with the healing, but they will essentially keep you alive with the same level of efficiency. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed this format of the video, then go down below and leave a like. Also, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can keep in touch every time the Deadman drops a video. And also, you can comment down below and let me know what you like about the videos, what you don't, and let me know what you want to see in the future. That's going to be it for your boy, DEADMANVINCE. Peace out.